let's talk. Let's talk about one of the pitfalls people make when it comes to getting in shape. I see this time and time again, and I see it particularly in women. And that is starting off too low on a deficit when you're trying to lose body fat. We crunch the numbers in, lo and behold, client is consuming at or below their basal metabolic rate, thereabouts. Not enough protein, not training with weights, not enough total energy to even drive fat loss. So this is so important to address this because it needs to take a shift in perspective as to how you approach moving forward. If you think about across the board, athletes would be amongst the best example of optimal body composition. Not all athletes. Most athletes in sports, they tend to not carry much body fat, with the exception of sumo wrestlers, with the exception of people that need to, use power, shot putters, some weightlifters. But for the most part, you don't see many of them carrying a lot of body fat. They tend to be lean, slender, muscular. Most athletes. And so the perspective needs to shift away from you, the kind of person who's struggling to lose fat, me, the individual who's struggled to lose fat, to then shifting identity and becoming me, the athlete. What do athletes do? Athletes do not restrict food. Athletes focus on performance. They focus on movement. They focus on doing more with their body. And then as a byproduct, body composition is achieved. For example, you look at the likes of Michael Phelps. If you were to see his physique, he's peeled to the bone, very, very lean. Did you know he consumes somewhere in the vicinity of 12,000 so-called calories per day? A lot of food. But also, he needs that food to fuel his workouts. No one shares with you that he's in the gym and in the pool collectively for 8 hours a day to fuel these workouts. And so he's using food as an opportunity to fuel the workout rather than restricting food as a means to lose weight. When you get your head around this and you understand that food is the solution, not the problem. When you get your head around this, that the goal with fat loss is to build the metabolism to torch the fat, not destroy in order to do so. Giving the body more food raises the metabolism. When you do that, you now have the fuel to go out and crush it in the gym. You now have the energy to go out and do your steps, to go out and do whatever type of cardiovascular activity you're doing. You have the energy to go out and build the body to then raise your basal metabolic rate and increase your platform, increase your capacity to now drop body fat as a result of this. This is the secret. This is such a big secret. So what do we do? How do we approach this? Well, step one, we need to find out your maintenance calories at the moment. There are many calculators online. Look up online a calculator. Determine maintenance calories. TD, total daily energy expenditure. Look up TDEE calculator. It'll come up. From there, determine your maintenance calories. And then you need to find out what you're eating every day and slowly raise up to eating at maintenance calories. Now, somebody comes to me with fat loss. How much body fat they have in the very beginning will determine from the maintenance calories what we do. How much of a deficit? I'm working with an individual right now. She's in her early 60s. She's very muscular, and she's 21% body fat. That's very lean for a female, especially in her age bracket. Very lean, and she's jacked. She's 62. So from her maintenance calories, which were about 2,100 from memory, I don't take too much food away. I might take 100 calories out of that to 2,000. Now we have a very minor deficit. From this minor deficit, what we do is we work on driving fat loss through expenditure. Expenditure is where it's at. You need to keep food high and activity high. Athletes focus on performance. You need to see yourself as an athlete, not somebody who struggles to lose weight. You've got to shift identity and see yourself as an athlete. Now, from here, what do? Well, we determine a minor deficit. By the way, if I'm dealing with somebody who has a lot of body fat to lose, maybe the deficit from the calories might be more than just a minor deficit. Somebody who's already lean at 21%, I might take 5 or 10% from that maintenance. Somebody who has a lot of fat to lose, we would probably take a little bit more, somewhere in the vicinity of 15, maybe even 20% from their maintenance calories. And that's where we start the deficit. The rest comes from activity. And we focus on the scale. We focus on the scale, we focus on measurements, and we focus on pictures week to week. Week to week. If you are not dropping 1% per week in your weight, we have to make some changes, especially early on when you have a lot to drop. It's different when we start getting into leaner territory. That 1% per week is going to be a struggle, and we can expect drops of 0.5% up to 1% per week, but they need to drop. The leaner you go, closer to essential fat territory, the greater the body fights back to hold on to its last reserves, and rightly so, and you want it to do that. But early on, if you have a lot of body fat to lose, then we should be looking at a 1% drop every single week. So what do week 1? We determine our maintenance calories minus a deficit. Could be 5 to 10% if you're on the leaner side. Could be 15 to 20% if you have a lot more body fat to drop. The people that have more to drop, their fat reserves provide the rest of the deficit. And then we drive it through activity. We would start off on whatever average steps you're doing, we would start with that. And then in 7 days, if you haven't dropped 1% of your total body weight, we add to that. We create the deficit of fat loss through activity, not restricting from food. Restricting food lowers the metabolism. Increasing food increases the metabolism. Some think that if I increase food and increase activity, it'll cancel it out. No, it enhances it. One elevates the metabolism, so too does the other. Now you have a double boost in metabolism. Ultimately, what you want is to be able to eat as much food as possible to give you the fuel to go out and destroy your workouts and give the energy to go out and torch the fat through cardio, than it is for you restricting and restricting and restricting. No athlete does that. You're no longer the person who's struggling to lose fat. You are now an athlete who needs to eat the right foods, enough of those right foods to go out and crush it in the gym. That's how you need to see yourself. We determine our protein intake. What's the protein recommendations? Well, you find your body fat measurement, you find your body composition, how much muscle to fat you carry, and we're looking at 2.4 grams of protein per kilogram of lean body weight. Okay, that's one way to do it. We're looking at a gram of protein per centimeter in height is another way to do it. We're looking at a gram of protein per pound of targeted body weight is another way to look at it. Once we have our protein, whether you choose to go ketogenic, whether you choose to go flexible dieting, it does not matter what you choose to do moving forward from here. How your carbs and fats sit does not matter. For metabolic health, it absolutely does matter. For body composition, it does not, providing you are having sufficient protein to build and maintain muscle, and your deficit is not too deep, not too steep, or not too little as well. For those who are not doing carnivore or ketogenic, the fats need to go no less than 20% of your total calories. And then the rest would be made up with carbohydrates if you go down that path. For those who are doing the ketogenic diet, not the carnivore diet, and keep your total carbohydrates to 50 grams or less. And those who are doing the carnivore, keep your carbohydrates to 20 grams or less. And the rest, of course, is made up from fats. That's how you create your start. And then you've got enough fuel for your daily activities. From there, let's say you're doing 10,000 steps a day, you're eating just below your maintenance, you've dropped for 1 week, you've dropped another week at 1%, but then it plateaus. What do you do from there? From there, we add further activity outside your steps in the form of low intensity, low impact cardio. Namely, now it needs to be under 130 beats per minute and at least above 110 beats. So the sweet spot is between 120 and 130 beats per minute. And we would do that daily for 7 days. So in conjunction to your deficit, in conjunction to your steps at 10,000, now we're also incorporating daily cardio at 20 minutes per day as a start. The 120 to 130 beats per minute, you are to start counting your duration of cardio once your heart rate reaches 120 and 130. And you're doing that for 7 days. Then we check the scale again and see, did we drop 1% in that last week by incorporating 20 minutes of cardio? If we didn't, we don't pull from calories. We drive it another 10 minutes the following week to 30 minutes, 120 to 130, and we repeat it again. And we keep doing this until we get to a place whereby we cannot fit any more time in. I mean, timing is a factor as well. If I'm dealing with a busy individual who doesn't have the time for this, then we have to then reluctantly pull from food. But pulling from food needs to be the last place to create the deficit. We need to maximize the deficit through expenditure, because you're an athlete now. You're not someone who's struggling to lose body fat. You're an athlete. We drive it through expenditure. And once we reach a critical point whereby you cannot physically add any more exercise throughout your day, then we would start taking it from food, and we would drop, depending on how much body fat somebody's got or how high their intake is. Typically it's between 150 to 200 so-called calories per week we would take, or per day for the week. So if you're still at 2,000 calories and you've ramped up activity to a point whereby you can't add any more, then we would make a 150 calorie drop to 1850 and repeat that process for a week. And you just keep doing that until you get to your desired weight, And when you get your desired weight, then I will do another video to share with you as to what to do to maintain that your new normal. How do we go from where we are right now to not regain all the weight back? What do we do moving from there? Anyway, that's basically a rundown of how I take an online client, where I start them off, how I gradually increase their metabolism, get them to lose the body fat through increasing activity rather than restricting food, and of course, teaching them how to build muscle in the process. I hope that's helped you. I wish you a fantastic day, and we'll talk again soon. Bye.